The hook Jack Carter had been mining in the asteroid belt for 12 long years. Every day was the same. Wake up in a tiny cabin, check the scanners, drill into rocks, and hope to find enough ore to pay for fuel and food. Most days, he found nothing but dust. Jack was tired, broke, and thinking of quitting, but on this day, something was different. His scanner beeped, not the soft beep of ore detection, but a sharp, steady pulse. The screen showed a strange signal. Unknown, unregistered. It wasn't from any human ship. The signal came from deep inside a cluster of frozen asteroids. Jack narrowed his eyes. "That's weird," he muttered. He knew the belt was dangerous, but curiosity was stronger than fear. He pushed the engines, guiding his small mining vessel between spinning chunks of ice and rock. As he got closer, his heart began to beat faster. Through the dust, he saw a massive shadow. It was a ship, but unlike any he had ever seen. The hull was covered with strange symbols, glowing faintly in the darkness. Parts of it were torn open, metal bent and blackened, as if from battle. Large sections of the ship drifted slowly, like broken wings in space. It was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. Jack hesitated. A damaged alien ship could mean danger. It could also mean treasure. No human had ever brought back alien tech. It could make him rich beyond his dreams. He activated his suit and prepared to board. The airlock hissed, and he floated into the silent, dark interior of the alien vessel. The inside was huge, almost like a cathedral. Tall, curved walls shimmered with faint blue light. The corridors twisted and turned in strange ways. Jack's flashlight beam caught the sight of large pods, hundreds of them. Inside each pod was a tall, insect-like creature, with delicate wings folded across its back. They looked peaceful, as if sleeping, but the frost on the glass told him they had been frozen for a long time. Jack walked slowly. Every sound echoed. He could hear his own breathing, loud inside the helmet. Then the floor shook, somewhere deep inside the ship. A low rumble began to grow. Jack checked his scanner. The reactor was unstable. The ship was going to explode. Panic rushed through him. He turned to leave, but something caught his eye. One of the pods was opening. Steam hissed, lights flashed weakly, and inside the glass the creature's eyes glowed gold. It was different from the others, taller, with a crown-like pattern on its head. Jack stepped closer. The pod fully opened, and the alien stumbled forward. It fell to its knees. Jack froze. The alien looked at him, not with fear, but with deep sadness. Then a voice entered his mind, soft and clear. "Help us, or all will die." Jack's breath caught in his throat. He had never heard a voice inside his head before. He didn't know how, but he understood her words perfectly. Before he could speak, the rumbling grew louder. The deck beneath them cracked, small fires breaking out along the walls. Jack grabbed the alien by the arm, pulling her toward the exit. She was weak, barely able to stand. Other pods around them began to spark and fail, some shattered, spilling frozen bodies onto the floor. Jack had no time to save them. They reached the airlock. Jack pushed the alien inside his small mining ship. He jumped in after her, slammed the hatch, and hit the emergency thrusters. The alien ship behind them glowed brighter and brighter. A blinding flash tore through the darkness as the alien vessel exploded. The shockwave slammed into Jack's ship, tossing it around like a leaf in a storm. Alarms screamed, panels sparked. Jack fought with the controls, trying to keep the ship steady. Finally, the shaking stopped. Through the viewport, all he could see was a cloud of burning debris drifting in space. The massive alien ship was gone. Only his ship and the mysterious alien queen remained. The alien sat on the floor, breathing slowly, her golden eyes fixed on Jack. Her voice entered his mind again, weaker this time. "You are the only one left to help us." Jack didn't know what she meant, but as he stared at her, he felt the weight of something far bigger than himself. Somehow, this meeting had changed his life forever. Outside, the stars were silent, but somewhere in the distance, in the cold blackness of space, Something else was moving. Something that had destroyed her ship. Something that might be coming for them next. The unwanted hero Jack Carter had faced debt collectors, space pirates, and the loneliness of the asteroid belt. But nothing in his life had prepared him for having an alien queen on his floor. Staring at him with golden eyes, she didn't move much, only breathed slowly, her strange, insect-like armor catching the light from the cockpit. Her voice came. Again, not through sound, but directly in his head. "My name is Serenia, last ruler of the Valari Empire, and you are now my protector?" Jack laughed. It was a nervous, shaky laugh. "I think you've got the wrong guy," he said. "I'm a miner, not a soldier, not a hero." But Serenia's gaze didn't waver. "Without you, my people will burn. And your Earth will follow." Those words hit him like a hammer. Earth, Jack hadn't been back in years, but it was still home. He wanted to believe she was lying, some alien trick to make him help her. But when she touched his arm, images flooded his mind. Cities crumbling under black ships, oceans boiling, skies filled with fire, and among the ruins, human faces screaming. Jack stumbled back, clutching his head. What was that? He gasped. "A glimpse of what is coming." She said, "The same enemy that destroyed my ship has found your star. They will not stop until all is gone." He sat in silence for a moment, staring at the stars outside. The hum of his ship felt louder than usual. He could leave her at the nearest station. Forget this whole thing, but the vision wouldn't leave his mind. He couldn't risk it being true. Before he could answer, the ship's alarm blared. Motion sensors picked up two small crafts approaching fast. Jack checked the radar. Not human ships. They were black, sharp, and moved like predators. Serenia's voice hardened. "Scouts. They have found us." Jack's instincts kicked in. He yanked the control stick, diving between drifting rocks. His mining ship wasn't built for combat, but he knew how to hide. Years in the belt had taught him tricks, how to use asteroids as shields, how to mask his engine heat. The two enemy ships circled, searching. He shut down everything but life support. Drifting in the shadows, the silence was heavy. Then one of the scouts fired a scanning beam. It swept across his ship like a searchlight. Jack held his breath. The beam passed, and the enemy ships moved away. Fooled by the cold metal of the surrounding asteroids, when they were gone, Jack restarted the engines. Serenia was watching him, her expression unreadable. "You hide like a shadow. You could lead my people." Jack shook his head. "I told you I'm no leader." But deep inside, a strange thought was growing. Maybe he was the only one who could help her. He didn't know alien politics, didn't know their weapons, but he knew survival. And maybe survival was all they needed right now. First steps into the unknown, the mining ship drifted in the shadow of a dead moon. Jack Carter leaned over the control panel, staring at the strange silver cube Serenia had placed in front of him. It pulsed softly, almost like a heartbeat. "This," she said, "is a fragment of our core memory. Without it, I cannot find my people." Jack tilted his head. "It's a rock with lights," he muttered. Serenia's golden eyes narrowed. "It is older than your planet, and only someone who can hear its song can unlock it." Jack laughed. "I don't hear songs," he said. But when he touched the cube, a sudden hum rushed through his mind. It was faint at first, like wind in a tunnel. Then sharper, a melody. Made of voices, he pulled his hand back fast, heart racing. What the hell was that? Serenia tilted her head slowly. "You hear it," she said, almost to herself. "That means the old Link is still alive." The stories were true. Jack frowned. "What stories?" She didn't answer, only said, "You are not as ordinary as you believe, Jack Carter." Before he could press her, the ship's warning lights flashed red. The reactor was struggling. The near explosion from the alien ship had damaged his systems badly. If they didn't fix it soon, they would freeze in the darkness. Serenia guided him to the back compartment, where a cluster of alien parts lay scattered, pieces she had carried from her wrecked ship. Jack didn't understand their shapes. They curved in ways no human engineer would design. Still, his hands moved with strange ease. It felt familiar, like he had done this before. Within an hour, he had integrated 2 alien conduits into his human engine system. Serenia watched in silence. When he was done, the ship's hum grew steady again. "You learn fast," she said. Jack wiped sweat from his face. "I fix things, that's my job." But deep down, he knew it wasn't just skill. It was instinct. And instincts like that don't come from nowhere. Suddenly, a sharp tone cut through the cockpit. The cube on the console glowed brighter. A holographic map burst into the air. Thousands of stars, swirling like a living galaxy. One star pulsed red, far in the distance. Serenia's face grew grim. That is where the council hides. If they are alive, Jack studied the map. Reaching that place meant crossing through enemy territory. He wasn't ready for that. He was still trying to understand why an alien artifact reacted to him like it knew him. But he could see something. In Serenia's eyes, not the cold pride she'd shown before, but hope, fragile and rare. He sighed. "All right," he said. "Let's go find your people." Serenia's voice was calm, but her mind spoke louder. "And perhaps we will also find who you really are." The enemy's shadow 3 days into their journey. The stars ahead began to ripple. At first, Jack thought it was a sensor glitch, but the ripple grew, spreading like heat waves. Then, 2 black needle-shaped ships slid out of the distortion. They didn't appear, they unfolded. As if space itself had been hiding them. Jack's stomach tightened. "Company," he muttered. Gripping the controls, Serenia's eyes narrowed. "They are hunters. Assassins of the enemy fleet," she said. Her voice was calm, but Jack could feel the tension in her mind. "They will not stop until we are ash." The hunters moved in perfect silence. No comes, no warnings, only the cold gleam of their weapons charging. Jack spun the ship toward an asteroid field. He had survived pirate chases before, but these ships were different. They moved like they already knew what he would do next. Every turn he made, they mirrored. Every feint. They countered. Then it happened. One hunter broke off and slid close to his port side. Through the cockpit glass, Jack saw its front canopy. Inside was no pilot, only a black mask, smooth as glass. Yet the moment it faced him, a whisper slid into his mind. "Found you." The words froze him. They weren't from Serenia. They weren't from his cums. It was the same telepathic tone Serenia used, but darker, colder. Jack's hands hesitated on the controls. How could the enemy know him? Serenia's voice cut through his shock. "Move! Now!" A plasma bolt shot past his hull, burning the paint. Jack snapped out of it, weaving through the asteroids. Chunks of rock shattered under enemy fire. Lighting the darkness with bursts of red, he forced the ship into a narrow gap, scraping metal. The hunters followed, but one miscalculated and slammed into an asteroid. Exploding into a cloud of fire, the second hunter broke off, not retreating but watching. It didn't chase. It just drifted in the distance, its black mask facing Jack. Then, as silently as it had come, it slid back into the ripple in space and vanished. Jack's knuckles were white on the controls. What was that? He demanded. Serenia didn't answer right away. When she finally spoke, her voice was low. "They should not have known you." Unless, she stopped, her golden eyes studying him as if seeing him for the first time. "Unless you are part of this war in ways you don't yet understand." Jack felt a chill. He was just a miner, wasn't he? Rise of the Human. Jack Carter had never seen a warship up close. The Valari outpost hung in orbit above a dying red star, its metal spires rising like black claws. Serenia's people, the few survivors who had escaped the enemy, waited for her there. When Jack stepped off his mining ship, every alien eye followed him. They whispered in their clicking musical language, and though he couldn't understand, he could guess what they were saying. Why is a human here? Why is the Queen with him? The alien soldiers were tall, armored in plates that shimmered like liquid metal. They bowed to Serenia, but their eyes never left Jack. One soldier stepped forward, his armor marked with crimson lines. He spoke in broken English. "You. Small, weak." "Not soldier," Jack smirked. "No, but I'm still breathing." "And that's more than your enemies can say," the soldier hissed. But Serenia raised her hand. "He saved me." "He will save us again," she told them. Her tone left no room for argument, but the doubt in the soldiers' faces was clear. That night, Jack wandered the outpost's hangar. Studying their ships, they were fast and sleek, designed for speed. Not durability, perfect for hit and run. Terrible for mining or carrying heavy loads. That gave Jack an idea. An idea that came from 12 years of hauling rock in dangerous space. An idea no alien strategist would ever think of. The next day, the council told Serenia of an enemy supply convoy passing through a nearby nebula. They had no plan to attack, too risky. They said. Jack leaned forward. "What if we hit them inside the nebula?" The council laughed. "Inside the gas clouds, sensors failed, visibility was zero. You would fly blind," one said. Jack just grinned. "Not blind. I know how to mine in the storm." Serenia gave him the green light. Jack worked through the night, modifying 3 Valari ships with scavenged mining scanners from his vessel. They weren't military grade, but they could detect dense metal through the nebula's haze, perfect for finding cargo ships. The soldiers watched in silence, curious despite themselves. When the mission began, the nebula swallowed them whole. Red and purple clouds churned like slow storms. The Valari pilots gripped their controls nervously. Without scanners, they were blind. But Jack's voice came over the comms. Calm and sure. "Follow my lead. Stay close," using the mining scanners. Jack guided them around deadly gas pockets and debris. They found the convoy exactly where he predicted. The enemy ships never saw them coming. Valari fighters swooped in, crippling the escorts, while Jack's ship targeted the freighters. Within minutes, the convoy was destroyed. The cargo theirs. When they returned to the outpost, the soldiers were different. They clapped him on the back with their clawed hands, spoke his name in their musical language. Even the crimson-armored warrior bowed slightly. "You fight like no one we know," he admitted. Serenia smiled. "He fights like a human," she said, and there was pride in her voice. But that night, alone in his quarters, Jack couldn't shake a strange thought. During the battle, when he fired at one enemy ship, he had felt connected, like the ship's systems had screamed in his mind before the shot even hit. It wasn't just strategy anymore. Something deeper was happening, and he didn't know if it was a gift or a warning. The final gamble. The warning came at dawn. Enemy fleet, larger than anything the Valari had seen, was moving toward the capital world. If the capital fell, the war would end in fire. The council argued for retreat, but Serenia turned to Jack. "You have faced them and lived. Tell us how to win." Jack stared at the star map. The enemy was too strong in open space. But there was one chance. A narrow field of drifting asteroids that circled a collapsed star. Deadly, unstable, but full of gravity traps. "Pull them into the field," Jack said. "They'll be too big to move fast, and the rocks will do half the work for us." The council called it madness, but Serenia stood beside him. "Then let us be mad and live." When the battle began, the Valari fleet darted ahead like silver fish, firing quick shots, drawing the enemy in. Jack's ship led them straight toward the asteroid field. The enemy followed, massive black warships pushing through space like predators. Jack felt the tension of every pilot over the comms. Then, without warning, something shifted. The moment his ship crossed into the field, the alien consoles lit up under his hands. Symbols he couldn't read began to glow. The hum of the engines deepened, and in his mind, voices, not Serenia's, not the enemy's, but a chorus of strange tones. They weren't speaking words, but he understood. The ship was telling him where the asteroids would move before they moved. He didn't question it. His hands moved faster than thought, guiding the Valari fleet through gaps so tight a mistake would mean death. Enemy ships tried to follow, But without the voices, they slammed into rocks, tore open hulls. Gravity pulled several into the collapsed star's deadly pull, vanishing in bursts of white light. But the enemy flagship was different. It matched every move Jack made. Its weapons tracked him perfectly. And then, across the distance, the same cold whisper from before slid into his mind. "You do not belong to them." The words made him falter for half a second. In that heartbeat, a plasma beam scorched past his wing. The chorus in his mind screamed. Jack dove under a spinning asteroid, looping behind the flagship. He fired a single shot, aimed not at weapons, but at its engines. The flagship lurched, then drifted powerless into the pull of the collapsed star. Moments later, it was gone. The battlefield fell silent. The enemy fleet scattered, fleeing into deep space. The Valari had won. Cheers filled the coms. But when Jack landed on the capital world, not all faces were joyful. Some soldiers looked at him with awe, others with fear. They had seen what he did, how the alien ship obeyed him like it was part of him. Serenia walked to him, her golden eyes unreadable. "You saved us all." "Jack Carter," she said quietly, then almost too softly to hear. "But now, I must find out why you can do what no human should." From Minor to Monarch, the palace on Valaria Prime was made of crystal and shadow. Its towers touched the clouds, and its halls echoed with songs of war and survival. Jack Carter stood on the highest balcony, staring at the alien sky. Below him, the last army of the Valari knelt in silence. They had named him the Starburn Shield. They had offered him command of fleets, power beyond imagination. But Jack felt none of it mattered. Not after what Serenia had just told him. Inside the council chamber, she had shown him the truth. Not a speech, not a file, but a memory stored in the ancient cube. It wasn't from her people. It was from the first builders, the ones who had created the Valari long ago. The cube showed a starship crash, not alien, but human. Jack watched as a lone survivor stumbled from the wreckage. A woman in a damaged spacesuit, marked with a flag from Earth. Serenia's voice echoed softly. "She came here long before you were born. Lost, alone, but carrying something powerful. The woman died soon after, but not before giving birth to a child who was not fully human, a child who vanished into the cities of Valaria, a child whose descendants carried strange echoes of the first Builder's code in their blood." Jack stared at the image of the woman. Her face was worn, but familiar. In her eyes he saw his own. He wasn't just connected to alien tech. He was descended from the ones who built it, part human, part something older, something deeper. It was why the ships responded to him, why the enemy whispered to him, why the war somehow had always led to him. Serenia stood beside him now, her wings folded behind her back. "You saved my people," she said. "But now they ask for more. They ask you to lead." Jack turned away from the sky. "I was just a minor," he whispered. She stepped closer. "No, you were always more. You just didn't know it yet." In the great hall below, the Valari chanted his name. But Jack didn't raise his hands, didn't shout. He simply looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, the enemy still lived. Somewhere out there more secrets waited. But for now, for this moment, the war was over. The miner had become a monarch, not by blood, not by crown, but by choice, by courage, by heart. He spoke just once, and his voice carried across the crystal towers. "Once, I dug through rock just to survive. Now I stand between the stars, so others don't have to." And the galaxy listened.